Hi guys, it's Ray. For today's Ink Week project, we are starting a beehive honeycomb tumbler. I'm going to use this 25-ounce barrel from Maker Flow. I'm going to do the peekaboo method on this because I don't have, I'll usually use just gold vinyl for the decals rather than glittering it, but I don't have any gold vinyl on hand right now, and I want to show you how you would peekaboo one. So I am going to stretch the bare minimum of resin it takes to coat this tumbler to act as my glue. I mixed up 20 because I'm going to do another cup after this one, but for this, bare minimum. Like 2-3 mLs max. Probably more will stick to the glove than anything, honestly. And then I'll go ahead and move it to a turner and let it spin for a little bit till I can flood coat it. So that is more than enough. It is fully covered. So I'm just set this on the drying rack for a second so I can take these gloves off. Now, I shouldn't have already had my paper down because now I have resin on the paper, so I'm going to move them out of the way. And grab a sheet or two of fresh paper. There. Better. For this, I am going to use Leather and Lace Chunky Mix from Bees Bling. I just think this will be pretty for this cup, so I'm just going to coat it all. So this is for my Ink Week series. Hopefully you're watching, and if the giveaway is not over by the time you watch, you're following up on that. Now I am seeing that this isn't quite getting into every nook and cranny, so I may go grab another gold in a second here. A fine gold. I thought that the fines would get in there enough, but I'm seeing more white than I would like to through with this particular mix. So but it is a gorgeous color. So I'm going to shake as much of that off as I can. I'm going to just set that on the rack for a minute, and I'm going to pour all of this glitter back into my jar because I was not careful by any means. I'm going to flip my papers over and just use the same. All right, I'm going to grab a gold. This is actually a champagne color, but I think switching to a lighter color isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing. I just want to find a fill in. And this was handy, so. This was just an inexpensive find that came from AC Moore when they were still open. And that is much better. I've not actually glittered one of these barrels yet. I always do them wood grains, so I figured I'd do something different on one of them for a change. And I'm going to make sure I get the bottom as well. And all around the bottom rim. I'm just going to take a look at it. That actually blended in pretty nicely with that glitter, so I am pretty pleased with that. I'm going to let this sit a little bit, and I'm going to use the wax paper method to pat it down. Because one of the sizes of chunky on there is pretty chunky. So I will be back in a few minutes to do that. Okay, so I am working on decals on this B cup. This is just temporarily here because I don't want to put the honeycomb decals underneath where this is going to go. I want to leave this open. I already applied all the drips and I did about half of the honeycomb. I put a tiny bit on the bottom. So I'm going to carry on with that. This is cut on 631 removable vinyl, and I just grab a random section. That way every bit is different. And this looks dull because it is sanded, so it was pretty smooth. It's not completely flat, but it's not bad. I'm going to try and leave those three off the side. Move them. So I might leave this one. I want them a little more randomized than they are. section down here. And this will shine back up once it gets the resin on it when I get to that part. But you see so little of the glitter. That's why I don't like doing these with the glitter base. I'd rather do glitter vinyl. I just didn't happen to have gold other than HTV, and you can do it with HTV, but it is more difficult, and I didn't really want to get into that. I'm just going to get this last piece on, kind of trying to decide where I want it, because I don't really have a lot. I think I might just do a couple here, a couple there. Just to kind of fill in. I'm going to grab this very last one off my sheet and sort of connect it there. Alright, so I'm going to peel this off because, like I said, that was just there temporarily. I just had it holding on with a piece of painter's tape. That's going to go back in after the next step. So what I'm going to do now is take this outside and give the entire thing a coat of white spray paint. And then I'll be back in to remove the decals. Okay, so I'm ready to do the next step on this. I know this is not super smooth, but I think for this style of cup, this is like the one and only time you can get away with not having it super duper smooth. So for this step, we're going to take a makeup wedge, and I have Peach Bellini ink. I have some butterscotch ink, and I have a little bit of this Let's Resin wheat colored ink, which is much lighter. And all I'm going to do is blot it on. But I think those three colors work well for kind of honey colored effect. So I'm just gonna keep dipping, and I'm gonna backtrack over in some spots as I work, just to get some of that other visual interest going. The bumps and stuff are the other reason I really don't like doing the peekaboo method for this. I'd rather have done vinyl, but it'll be okay in the end. It's just this tumbler is so thick to begin with that I didn't want to make it too thick by adding layer after layer after layer of resin. So and again, I'm going to keep backtracking just to add texture and depth. And the fact that I am texturing it like this is part of the reason I'm not worried about the divots and stuff, because they'll just add more texture at the end. I'm just putting a couple drops of each color on every time I stop. And you'll just keep going over it until you're satisfied with what you have. I kind of like where it gets some of the darker lines, so I'm going to leave some of that. If you don't like that, keep working over it. And I am just mixing all three colors on one dauber. And don't forget to get around to your bottom. I'd already done a light coat on the bottom when I was testing my colors. And do keep in mind you have glitter under here, so it's going to be totally different once you pull anyways. Because all of these spots are coming back off for the glitter to come through. And one more around. And this is that bigger open spot where my decal's gonna go. So I do want to get a little bit of dimension worked in there. I'm gonna go ahead and go back over that. The wetter your dauber is, the more the ink's gonna spread. Double check. Sorry, look it over, make sure you don't have any white spots or any spots you don't like. See, that really spread out there in that space. So I'm going to go back over it now that it's dried a little bit. I'm just going to freshen up the peach this time. I'm just looking it over. I don't want any like square edges like that, so I'm going to blot over that a little bit. But I think I'm pretty happy with that overall. So next step will be, I'm going to grab my cup cradle. I don't want my cup to stick to this at all, just because it's maybe slightly tacky. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of wax paper quick. I'm just going to set a piece of wax paper on the cradle. You're going to grab whatever your preferred weeding tool is. And I'm not going to do all of this on camera because it's a lot. And do keep in mind the glitter spots are going to be dull right now because they are sanded. So, but that color will come back once I get them. Be careful not to get off of the decal. Because you will scratch. Can you see that where I'm scratching the decal? It's okay if you scratch over the decal, but you don't want to scratch next to the decal if you can help it. So, and because this is going to be a little time consuming, I'm not going to do every single one of these little honeycombs on camera. I do want to see if I can find one end of the drip though. You can see where this is picking up the wax paper. That's why the wax paper is there. Let me see if I can find the break. I concealed my overlap pretty well, I guess, right here. Okay. Sometimes the vinyl tears like that once it's been wetted down with anything. It's normal. And I do have a little bit of a drip where they were kind of folded. Because this cup is tapered at the top, obviously, I had to kind of manipulate it, so. But that's how the drip looks, peeled. And like I said, I will just get back in here and get every single one of these off. And then I will be back. So I decided I was going to very carefully get my decals on before I put the resin on this. Just because I want to keep my coats of resin as thin and as few as possible. So I put my main decal down. I cut my transfer tape as close as possible so nothing would lift. And now I'm just going ahead and adding some little bees here and there. I just cut out a variety of bees, different sizes. And I am just going to go ahead and put a bunch on. I'm just going to try and be as careful as I can to not peel my color. Because I'm not going onto resin, I am going directly onto that ink. So I do want to be mindful of that. You can put as many or as few as you want on here. This will also give me another look and make sure I got all of my little honeycombs removed. But so far I'm not seeing any rogue honeycombs. So hopefully they're good. I'm going to go ahead and put another bee on the bottom. I'm going to turn the cup a little bit. I did use this piece of transfer tape on the main decal first after I stuck it to my pants to kind of make it a little less sticky. Just so it wasn't as sticky. I didn't have to worry so much about lifting anything. A couple of these there. It'll be here. I'm just going to turn the cup around and look and see where I might want more. I'll get another one down here, because I might as well use these last three. Put another one up here. And I think I'm just going to spin it again. Got plenty towards the front, so I think I'm just going to put one more up in here. And that'll be it. I'm out of bees. Alright. That way I can hopefully get away with 2 thinner coats rather than a coat now and then 2 more coats on top of the decal work. Just be super careful if you're going to do it this way. If you're not confident in not lifting your inks, then don't do it this way. But I'm pretty comfortable in my method and technique, so... And I'm just going to go ahead and scrape off that little bit of white paint that bled under this drip. I'm not worried about it getting scratched under here because that's already dull from being sanded. Just, again, be careful. There. So I'm going to let it sit for a little bit and then I will come back and it will be ready for resin. But a little bee happy. Sometimes I put flowers on these, but this one I'm not. So, okay, I am ready to get the clear coat of resin on here. All my decals are good. It's been sitting. So, just a regular old clear coat. I'm not putting any glitter or anything in this. And you'll see the peekaboo parts shine back up. This is going to get a pretty thick coat. Because it is going down in the little divots and it's going over decals, so it'll get a good coat. And it may get one more just to make sure everything is good. But I won't show you another coat because it's just the same. And I do have this one little leg that is lifting that hopefully will stay down. If it pops back up, I may have to cut his little leg off later. I don't want to though, so I'll keep an eye on it. All right, so that's just gonna spin and level itself out and do its thing. I'm gonna torch it real quick. Keep it moving when you're torching. You can see how that glitter underneath shined right back up, even though it was sanded like crazy. So, that's it for this one. Just gonna let it spin out and do its thing. And here's the Be Kind cup. You can see how sparkly that glitter got. It's fantastic. Love the big decal I used. And there's the little bees on the bottom. Love the texture and the alcohol ink on this one. But that's how it came out done.